Reboot culture is annoying. I may be a person who looks at animation critically, but to anyone who's ever seen me watch animation, whether on my live streams on here on my Amino or sometimes on Discord, you would know that I don't rave at the mouth for everything. Sure, ripping apart stuff is fun, even with friends, and I definitely encourage it in a non-hate dummy way, but I go to bed just like everyone else. Well, everyone except those who spent day after day either ruthlessly tearing apart the show, or ruthlessly complaining about the people who are tearing apart the show. I managed to avoid the storm, but something reboot doesn't look good as before, something character design, and it's like, I don't care. So from a person who just wants to watch good cartoons and take over the world like a normal human being, I answered today's question in today's review of the first part of The Sword. Did She-Ra in the Princess of Power start off well? We get some world building with all of these fantasy backgrounds. I'm personally burned out with how many Netflix shows seem to want to flex their fantasy card, but hey, cool. This is Adora, one of the top people of her kind. The first season is told to focus on characters, their relationships, and set up everything for the later seasons. He-Man does not appear anywhere within this first season, who is her twin brother, at least in other variants. Focusing on this episode, Adora is fine. It shows her being upbeat, confident, and comfortable in her own skin. She also centers in on this photo here, attacking it for having a princess within it. Now, as a reboot, and knowing this series well from research, they would like to reach new audiences and show them the awesomeness that is She-Ra. The problem here is that I only half understood everything that was going on, and that'd be okay if there was a lot of action and things that would be explained later. But there's nothing worse than not understanding much, but also having tons of dialogue, so it appears that time could have been spent to make things clearer. Luckily, since I watched ahead, I can explain this episode in ways that it didn't do really well.
Here's your scenario. You'll be passing through the treacherous Whispering Woods to reach the heart of the rebel insurgency, Bright Moon. The Whispering Woods is full of princesses, vicious, violent instigators. They will take you out if given a chance.
To train for their battle against the Princess Alliance, they go into this simulation which is supposed to emulate the Whispering Woods, a place we'll be back to later. I do want to say, as you can see, the Hordak don't really have kind words for the Princess Alliance, so every time you'll hear the Princess Alliance from this part, it'll be in a bad name. Now for the first part, we have them fighting robots that through their tech, they see as evil princesses. I find this part pretty neat because it's in a concept that we've seen in many sci-fi shows before, including that one episode of Jimmy Neutron where they use a holodeck, so points for that. Unfortunately, my nice words end there. For an action adventure, as Wikipedia states, magical girl show, this first action scene is not really that good. They spend most of the time running within a simulation, mind you, so in a controlled environment, and the others are merely given a line or two before being pushed aside. It's almost as if this scene was here to set up that Catra isn't as hardworking and as obedient as Adora, something we're gonna see time after time after time. In fact, the first time I saw this, I didn't think they were friends, but they are. Relatively anyway. Also take note of how despite falling in this hex space, her body moves as if her only joint is her wrist. It's like she's a doll here and not a human person. I do commend the episode for taking great strides in establishing this relationship, one more responsible and the other one more carefree. We've seen this multiple times from Mac and Blue to Double D/Eddie and Ed to Blossom and Bubble/Buttercup. It's tried and true, and the show works well with it. Like here, for example.
Oh, come on, Catra. We're senior cadets now. I can't believe you're still pulling such childish, immature. Is that a mouse? What? Where? Are you ever going to not fall for that?
It shows a balance rather than one side taking advantage of the other side. Shadow Weaver, this thing here, brings Adora aside with a hint of disdain for Catra's laziness and attitude, and eventually tells her that Lord Hordak thinks she can make for a great force captain. Excited and ready to bring the team along, she's told that isn't a possibility because only she is being considered, not her team. I agree, considering in the first battle it was only her doing all of the real legwork, acting Posing also as her mother, not sure if that's confirmed, Shadow Weaver brings up confidence that she's had ever since finding her as a baby all alone, to which should give you your origin story points. While I also enjoy her character and her design, it's a shame we don't see much of her, within this episode at least. We actually hard cut to this other side of what the majority of this episode will be about, the Princess Alliance's side. So you'd probably expect a similar strain of seriousness, or at least a story that has a lot of maturity as well.
I'm told you disobeyed orders and led the rebellion into a dangerous combat situation after you were ordered to retreat.
I was trying to protect a village from falling into the Horde's grasp.
You were reckless and put yourself and the other rebels in danger.
Fighting is supposed to be dangerous.
I'm growing tired of your back talking, Commander Glimmer.
Why did you even make me a commander if you won't let me fight?
That's enough. You're grounded.
Mom!
You heard me.
You never let me do anything!
You are embarrassing me in front of my royal court.
Go to your room! I'm going!
Originally, while watching this part, I thought of the various ways this was going to go down. Maybe they'd have a subplot revolving around her pushing her limits to the max, and showing that the Princess Alliance needs to fight harder and stop retreating. Well, I was half right, and I wish the half I was right about wasn't wrong. I didn't really enjoy this part, and in fact, with each time I rewatched it, it got worse. I don't know if it's because Glimmer here is my least favorite character in the whole show so far, or if it's because we were teased action and it didn't deliver only to give us scenes like this. I understand that the show wishes to build relationships, but I was under the assumption that I would at least be entertained along the way. It felt forced, and it didn't really give a good reason to put the starting point here other than because the writing would make sense. In fact, the entirety of the negative points I have with the show is most likely dialogue. If you want me to sit down for a 20-something minute show to enjoy this, I'd expect the dialogue to be at least good. It makes me feel like I'm watching something made for a Tumblr fanfiction, to which may sound relatable. The issue here is that it lacks the fundamentals to make me care for the characters I'm seeing for the first time. A lot of fanfiction does lack that why. That great storytelling steamrolls past easily, and this episode can be a chore, especially to those who aren't into heavy stories, or again, those who don't know anything about She-Ra. Let's take the next scene for example. While Adora is thinking about the giant weight of a potential promotion put in front of her, Catra approaches her about what happened as good friends generally do. Upon hearing the news of Adora's promotion and assuming it to be across the entire group, she realizes that the promotion is only for Adora, not the group. So this scene happens.
She's just bitter that she doesn't have any real power that doesn't come from Hordak and everyone knows it. But I guess it sure must be easy being a people pleaser like you.
I am not a
Catra, wait!
Completely understand that she's young and they're both not experts in communication, but it's so flat the way they communicate. Does Catra need to be snarky in every single sentence? Can Adora not start off with how good this is for her in hopes that this would somehow cheer up Catra? I feel like I'm listening to a watered down play for something much better. Sure, they build up Catra and have her character progress nicely as a selfish but good intentioned slacker, but there's this element of her that doesn't make me want to see her improve or learn her lesson. Take Rigby for example. His admirable traits have to this day a TBA on it, but I love his character. Why? Because Rigby wasn't always annoying within a single episode, and Rigby at least also knew how to have fun from the audience's perspective, and not essentially have fun but no one gets to see it. For a show that's building up characters and relationships, the skill set of the people doing this isn't portrayed well in this lackluster attempt. All is forgiven by Catra when Adora steals a ship that leads them both into the Whispering Woods. Because Catra loves chaos, she goes in. Shenanigans ensue, and it causes Adora to get knocked out of the craft, leading her into hitting the forest ground, thankfully not dying.
Catra?
Balance must be restored. Etheria must seek a hero. Adora.
Now this part is super cool, and I do have to commend the way they did it. While going into the Whispering Woods, I would have expected something bigger, but thankfully they delivered down the line. However, having this scene happen with the subtle clues that tell enough without giving too much away, but also having a reason to come back into the forest was well done. I can tell that the rough story is going to be great, but those little details put into the context of trying to develop relationships started off rocky. But speaking of relationships within the episode I enjoy, Bo and Glimmer.
Hey, Glimmer!
Bo, what are you doing here?
What did you say? Come down here.
I can't. I'm grounded.
What?
I'm grounded.
What?
I'm grounded.
Contrasted against my least favorite character is my favorite character, Bo. I definitely enjoy how he's a lot more relaxed and collected. Unlike Glimmer, his voice actor seems to work well in the ears and doesn't make me want to punch the glitter-bound brat in the head. However, I do want to say her stubbornness on wanting to prove that princesses can fight transitioned smoothly into the scenes to come, and I'm so glad that Bo was here, because if not, you would essentially be getting DeviantArt Fights, the movie. Trust me, it'll make so much sense in about 8 minutes. Bo finds a piece of First Ones, the first people of this land's tech, and is focusing on a strong signal that also happens to be in the Whispering Woods. After more annoying back and forth between Glimmer and her mother, they set out to go find the strong signal despite Glimmer being grounded. Adora, because she had a powerful vision about the world, is also going to the Whispering Woods again to find out more information about the sword. Sounds like a wacky setup for them to bump into each other. Cutting to the chase, they do.
Horde soldier!
I see her!
I'm sorry, did you just scream at your enemy? This is your sworn enemy, and the first thing you can think to do is to pull a spore and just look mean towards your supposed sworn enemy? No, I take it back, this is the greatest show of all time. But seriously, the whole chase here to the sword and the struggle is well put together and had every character's strengths accentuated. I enjoy how the teleportation was used, as well as the constant bringing up that they're on separate sides. This leads into another dream sequence that was pretty okay.
Is light hope? I have been waiting a long time for you, but I could not reach you until you forged your connection with the sword.
You sent the sword?
The sword is meant for you. Etheria has need of you, Adora. Will you answer its call? Will you fight for the honor of Grayskull?
But what is more interesting to talk about is the way Glimmer and Adora behave. Remember how I said I was so glad that Bo joined Glimmer in her quest to impress her mother? Well, without Bo, this latter half of the episode would have been all kinds of annoying. The constant back and forth between them starts off bearable, pun intended, but it leads into absolute mind-numbing irritation. I get the metaphor, it's the fact that they're at war, but only because of what they were told and not what they saw, leading into a misunderstanding between the two. The issue is, I got that really early. Again, thanks to Bo.
Do you not know any of this? I mean, your army is called the Evil Horde.
Who calls us that?
Everybody!
You don't know them like I do.
Maybe you don't know them like you think you do.
The cycle of fighting with Glimmer, Glimmer walking away, and then Bo and Adora having an actual conversation gets really tiring, considering not only that it's crystal clear, but more so that the fact that Glimmer's hands aren't necessarily clean here. Apologies if I don't have much to say beyond the fact that this would probably be a lot better if it took place within a high school setting. Glimmer sees something in the distance and they battle. I may be a terrible person for this. I just had a great rush of happiness when this bug monster hit Glimmer. Just look at her, throwing her magic at the monster, and it's not doing anything until smack. In fact, can we just have this on a loop? Just loop this while I explain everything else I'm gonna say. Okay, within this episode, it had many different themes. While the themes itself aren't really an issue, like of course I'm not an idiot, Glimmer is supposed to be this way, and Adora and Glimmer shouldn't get along. The issue here is that within this decade alone, I've seen so many fantasy shows, and for some reason, I would rather go back to see the first season of Steven Universe, or even watch Hilda, because at least it's fantasy plus something. Steven Universe had this whole gem world, but also Steven trying to adjust in a world where he's only half human, which leads into a whole bunch of adventures. Hilda at least toyed around with the idea of focusing on a world in which he doesn't want to leave with these new and fresh characters that fit within the story. The issue here with She-Ra, and I'm gonna stop the looping by the way, is that the execution of these tried and true themes feel too simplistic and flat for the action that it intends to show. She-Ra is a big character, and even though I didn't grow up with her, I just feel that the character could have been built up so much more better than this. I mean, it works, but it doesn't do justice to this ultra cool female role model that I believe she could be and much more. So the episode ends with the reveal of She-Ra, and it hard cuts there as this was the end of the Sword Part 1. Did She-Ra and the Princess of Power start off well? Not really. Luckily, Part 2 is much more interesting, as naturally the second parts of things are. But as a new fan into the She-Ra universe, provided this was live action, I wouldn't have given it a second look. In summary, the Sword Part 1 is what you get when you take the cool concept of a magical, powerful role model of a woman, put her into a standard fantasy environment, and shower it with C-movie romantic comedy / yesterday's rejected high school girl idea that wouldn't even be re-ran on Boomerang, and add the annoying fights that would fit right beside your hashtag relatable moments you'd scroll past on Tumblr. Anyway, I'd like to know what you guys think about the episode. Should I review part 2? Let me know in the comments down below. Special thanks to the patrons of November, and until next time, take care. Alpha out.